Hello, I'm Lenea Key, owner and CEO of Firm 717 Yoga Instruction and Wellness, located in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Thank you so much for joining me today for this Black History Month speaker series. I'll be speaking today about health and wellness in the Black community and how we need to seek out additional alternatives to the classic American diet that, as we know, does not serve our highest good. Let's talk about what is the American diet. It usually consists of heavy foods, lots of meat, lots of bread, and lots of sugar and caffeine. How are these things that we eat and consume each day affecting our well-being and our overall health? For example, the American diet, hamburgers, hot dogs, we have meat and bread. And I think we know by now that bread turns into sugar. The flour, the yeast, it all continues to hurt our system at some point. Whereas we could use an alternative to bread and meat and having those as staples in our diets, all color foods. For example, foods that are alive, like spinach and kale, strawberries, blueberries, foods that are dark in color, green, red, and blue. High blood pressure and heart disease disproportionately affect the Black community. High blood pressure can be prevented. Drinking more water, of course, eating more balanced foods, also using holistic health methods such as yoga, stretching, massage, and also working out consistently. Heart disease can also be prevented by eating a balanced diet of fruits, vegetables, and a diet relieving ourselves of the sugary drinks like sodas, and instead making ourselves aware of drinks like water and tea, specifically green teas and herbal teas. Just thinking more about what we are eating and how it is affecting our body. Every single thing we put into our body is either contributing to disease or contributing to wellness. So the next time you stop at a fast food restaurant or you're in your kitchen preparing a meal for your family, think, are you poisoning them or are you making them better? So where does disease come from? It comes from the foods that we eat, the exercise that we decide to take part in or not. Also, our stress levels, the things that are on our minds that may not even be happening in the moment. In addition to our lifestyle, overcommitting oneself or doing things that may not bring you joy, but that you feel obligated to do. In addition, your stress level can be affected by your level of forgiveness or your need to not forgive and continue to carry whatever the situation was with you into the future. Focusing on a situation that's not even happening at the time allows the body to produce a slow simmer, meaning that you're simmering or angry about something that's not even happening in the moment. I encourage you to stop, take a deep breath, and just look around you at what is happening, at what is in your space, and what you can be grateful for. Gratitude goes a long way to a healthy heart and a healthy mind, as does mindfulness, being in the moment, stopping and considering what's happening right now and how you feel about it. Also, our energies, for example, chi or chakras, have been used to describe the energies in the human body. And yes, those energies can be blocked not only by certain situations, but by the foods that you eat and also by the people who you associate with. When you're around someone, the way you feel matters. If you're spending lots of time around people who don't have your best interests at heart, or people who don't vibrate at the same level as you, meaning vibrating high, vibrating from love, as love is the absolute highest vibration. Think about how you can vibrate from love, and also focusing on how you feel when you're in the presence of other people. Walking, of course, is what we were made to do. And if you're able to take off those shoes and ground yourself and get the energy of the earth as it flows through your body, walking in the sand, walking on the grass, just walking outside with no shoes has so many health benefits to the body, as well as the energy centers that are in and around the body. And it's just fun, especially when it's sunny out, but you can also choose to dance in the rain. I beg of you to search for raw foods, raw alternatives to cooked foods, vegetable alternatives to sugary sweets, nuts and seeds, oils like olive oil, avocado oils, grapeseed oils when cooking in place of butters and margarines. There are so many alternatives out there nowadays that you can find right in your local grocery store without going too far to any sort of specialty shop. Stop, take a deep breath, and just be in the moment. Don't allow your mind to move into the future that has not happened yet, or to linger on things from the past where we cannot go back and change anything that has already happened. But just staying in the moment and understanding your own joy and how you feel each and every day. Coffees filled with caffeine can be swapped for teas or even water, specifically water with possibly a lemon or a lime squeezed early first thing in the morning. Warm it up and you will have an amazing treat that will help you get through the rest of your day. And just drinking more water, hydrating your body consistently. Try alternative ways of cooking vegetables that are still crisp and still crunchy as opposed to soaked in water and soggy. Just try your best to do your best each and every day. Another thing you can do is eat less. Our bodies can survive sufficiently on just one meal a day, and fasting is a great way to cleanse your system of any toxins that still remain, especially after a very heavy meal. Also, alternative medicine, as opposed to Western medicine, which is a for-profit system meant to just pump you full of pills. Why not try chakra cleansing, Reiki healing, yoga, and there are so many other alternative forms of healing, especially getting back to our own African roots. For example, ash circles and altars, just different ways that we can heal ourselves without running to doctors, specifically those in Western medicine. Think about it. Black people have been targeted for centuries. We should literally be extinct, and yet here we are, still flourishing. And guess what? The powers that be are not happy about our progress and will choose to harm us. And even if they're not harming us specifically, we've been convinced and socialized to harm ourselves by the foods that we eat, the stress that we keep into our bodies, even the things that we allow into our sight and into our ears from our televisions, computers, and cell phones. Just take a moment to stay out in nature, walk outside, look at the sky, ground yourself on the planet Earth, and never forget that you carry God in you. Thank you so much for joining me for this Black History Month speaker series. I am Lenea Key, owner and CEO at Firm 717 Yoga Instruction and Wellness, where I teach yoga, personal training, and assisted stretching. Please follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Firm 717, and that's FIRM 717. Thank you so much for joining me for this Black History Month series.
Hello and happy Black History Month. My name is Nicole Sims, and I'm so happy to be here today. I'm the founder of Creative Visual Solutions, which is a company that helps independent retail owners start and grow and expand their businesses. I also help retail students navigate through their career. I love retail. I've been in it for over 35 years, and it's been an up and down experience. And today we're going to talk about how Black-led retail brands have changed the face of retail. They have been responsible for some great innovations, some great products, and have changed the way we actually market to each other. A little more about my background. Like I said, I had a love affair with retail for 35 years. I had some great wins in my career. I have the number one store in the district. I've been best visual merchandising in a district in the region, and that's been said by the executives and the vendors that I serve. I've had the highest consistent sales increase in my areas, and I brought one of my brands to over $1 million in 1 year. And I have great vendor relationships. But as you probably guessed, as being one of the few Black women in retail, it was an uphill struggle. I do a lot, I had to overcome a lot, I worked twice as hard to get those results. Like because I was only the Black woman in all of my college classes, I was one of two Black women in the management positions that I held. I was only Black woman in the entire city when I was a store manager. And then when I became a regional field manager, I was only one of three Black people, two women, one man. So the lack of diversity was really disheartening and really upsetting sometimes, but I really still persevered, and so did our brands today. So lack of diversity was one of the reasons, like I did, for a lot of African American women to start their own businesses. Some started their retail business based during the COVID-19 era through job loss or just not being satisfied with their job and they wanted something different. But like our founders today, majority of them started their retail businesses based on a need or a void they saw in the marketplace and that they could really make a difference by filling that need. So there's 2.8 million retail businesses in the US, but only zero point 0.3 are headed by a Black woman. 0.3. But that doesn't matter that the number is so small because they made some of the largest contributions to the retail industry, which we're going to discuss today. So there's four ways that Black female-led retail founders have changed the retail game. They have created a community. They've created VIP experience on social media. They've done it by creating products that serve their tribe. And then they've created more market share through brick and mortar. First, let's talk about how they created community. So Sassy Jones is one of his brands that have done this. They are a great brand of fashion and accessories. And she says it right here, unicorns come where unicorns come to play. So if you're different, you see yourself offbeat, a little bit different, you're welcome here. She has made the community into a tribe. She just makes sure that her customers are seen and heard and they feel part of a family. And she's done this through email marketing and text marketing. Email marketing is not dead. So if you don't have an email list, please make sure you start one today. Because she uses email though and has a two-way form of communication. She listens to her people, she listens to her tribe, they give her feedback and she acts on it and she communicates with them. And so they know that they're being heard and they're being seen. And like I said, part of a family, and that's just another number or dollar sign. Next, they create a VIP experience and they create that on their social media platforms. Now, everyone's using social media. That's nothing new. What these brands have done is made it more of a VIP experience for their customers and their followers. They are simply socializing sometimes. They're not talking about product. They're not talking about selling. They're just talking about being a person and a human being. They do a lot of pre-launch feedback. So something that they want to launch or they want to try, they talk to their tribe first. Hey, what do you think? What do you want to do about this? And they listen to what they have to say. And then they give insider VIP access. Maybe the founder knows a celebrity or insider in the industry, and they bring them on to showcase them and talk to them and talk to their people on their Instagram or their Facebooks. And so they have access to these VIPs that they never would have any other place. And then, of course, they give them behind the scenes scenes of the CEO and the founder, their day in their life, their thought processes, all kinds of things that they want to share with anybody else but their followers. Next, they create products for their tribe. So the number one reason why a lot of these brands are so successful is they're filling a gap in the market. They know that there's a 1.2 trillion buying power in the Black community, and they know that once those needs are filled, the Black community will step up and buy for them. And key point, they've done understanding the Black consumer even more. So like Mented, they were one of the first lipstick brands to create a new lipstick made for Black women. There was news out there from other beauty brands, but not one that fit our skin tone, and they fixed that. Then you have the middle Chic Geek, which knew a lot of Black women were techies, but wanted more sophisticated, elevated accessories to their tech. So she created a line of tech accessories to fit their needs. And then Beauty Bakery, they're one of the first foundation lines that put the darker color foundation as number one and the lightest color and the larger scale of the numbers, which most other brands do the opposite. So they're saying to their Black female consumer, I see you, I recognize you, and I'm got your back. And then they followed the blueprint for all their other products. So they're creating a product and then trying to sell it to their tribe. They ask their tribe, what do you need? And get the feedback from there and then create a product afterwards. So they create more market share through brick and mortar. So online retailing is not going away. It's been huge the past couple of years. You cannot deny that. But these brands realize that even though they made millions, sometimes even $1 billion online, they needed to get in front of their customers in a more physical way because they understood that only 15% of our retail sales were done in online. That means 85% of our retail sales are still done in a brick and mortar store. So they realized that they want to really have a great market share, really get the brand from the customers. They had to go physical. So there are four main ways that they did this. First, they did it by going to large box retailers. So you have the Lip Bar and you have at the bottom Honey Pot. They're some of the two largest brands within the Target stores. And they did that because they realized, yes, we're doing well online with $1 million of sales online, but truly have a great market share and really get in touch and connect with our customers, we have to get in store. And then you can also do it by going to department stores. So the stores that actually carry their brands and carry their lines as well as online. And then you could be a store within a store model. So a store that acts a boutique or something where you can actually go inside and be on the shelves or the walls of these boutiques. And then you have brick and mortar stores. So you have Savage Fenty here, and you have Sassy Jones who have $1 million and Savage Fenty $1 billion online. But Rihanna realized that she needed to be in her customers' faces and actually be able to connect with them in a physical sense. She also did it with her Fenty line, where she went to Ulta and Sephora to get in those stores. So again, $1 billion industry online, but now she wanted to make sure she gets in front of her customers. And then we have Sassy Jones, same thing, $1 million online, really great brand, really great following. But she knew in order to get more in front of her customers and get that better connection, she had to open a brick and mortar. So she opened her flagship store not too long ago. And she uses that store for events, for VIP events and community events and more. So there you have it. Those are the four ways you can learn from Black female founders how you can create a really great retail business. One, you want to create community that becomes a tribe. Two, you want to make sure that you get a VIP experience on social media. Three, you want to make sure that you create products that specifically are tailored to your tribe. And then four, if you're not brick and mortar already, you want to find a way to get in a physical sense. Not necessarily opening a brick and mortar per se, but find a way to get in the hands of your customers in a physical way. So I hope this was great for you. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. You learned something. I would love to connect with you. My website is NicoleSims.boutiqueexpert.com. I would love to connect with you on Creative Solutions on my IG, and we can also connect on LinkedIn. And I would love to speak with you at your next event or your next student event. Talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your Black History Month. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jamal Randy Allen Rasheed, founder, president, and CEO of the Ellis County African American Hall of Fame Museum and Library, located in the historic Freedmanstown community at 441 East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Waxahachie, Texas, approximately 20 miles south of Dallas on Highway 35 East. Many people have visited our facility, and especially from small towns, and have asked, how can we build a facility in our community? Well, I have 10 steps that you can follow. Step one is you must have a vision, not a dream, a vision. Visualizing, educating an uneducated community about who they are. Walking into your facility clueless and walking out with the power of knowledge of self. Step two, provide a one-page description as the museum founder. Write a one-page description of your museum vision and your library vision. Is it going to be art? Is it going to be African American history? Is it going to be African American history and art and local history? But be descriptive. Try to think 50 years into the future. What changes might affect your museum? What could hamper your museum's ability to strive and survive? Step three, identify an old house, perhaps a school building, a gym, or property that's owned by the city, county, or state that is no longer in use that can be donated by them for your vision. That cuts costs. Create a preview facility, which is essential for a small version of your planned museum. The preview facility is a great place to show what you're wanting to do, and it gives the donors a vision. Step four, nonprofit. Register the nonprofit organization and form the 501c3. Grow the board of directors to about 12 to 20 members, including 3 or 4 donors qualified for plus gifts, i.e. money. Also include artists, teachers, students, school superintendents, principals, and the board of directors, on your board of directors. Step five, social engagements. Share your vision with other people who would be capable of giving and can provide dinner parties, cocktail parties, and other social engagements to help raise funds. You can find 3 or 4 people interested in the funding process to help to create your museum. After 2 or 3 such social engagements, you will know if there's funding capability in the community, and 2, is the community in support of your vision. If the answer to both of these is yes, move them to the item and move forward with your vision. The next step, programming. Create and deliver programming in schools and in borrowed places in your community, rented facilities, where you can deliver samples of your program and build the facility. It is essential to continue to deliver community programming while simultaneously designing and building the facility that you want so that people have a vision. Hire an architect, a contractor, or an executive director type person who can help make your vision come true. Community meetings. Organize a community meeting. Invite politicians, parents, teachers, school superintendents, and real estate developers to share in your vision and ask for feedback. Collect the names and email addresses of participants and ask if they are willing to attend future meetings. Step 8. Start collecting and identifying material and create collateral material. Step 9, do a feasibility study, museum master plan, building design, exhibition renderings, audience research, and visitor experience evaluation. Step 10, raise money with the appropriate half of the funding in hand to announce your plans for a capital campaign and start to ask individual foundations and businesses for gifts to fund the remainder of your project. Museum openings. Receive community feedback, improve your operation and the facility, and receive and evaluate audience feedback. Your audience feedback is very important because that is what's going to build your foundation and secure your vision. Starting a museum is a complex multi-year process. More than ever, individuals are stepping in to fill a vital role in communities by providing critical civic engagement. Send me an email or give me a call if you can so that I can assist you in making your vision of empowering through knowledge come true in your community. My email address is jamal5@sbcglobal.net, and my phone number where I can be reached at is 469-337-7989. Continue the vision to building the world to educate and empower to give knowledge. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Vick, and I am so honored to have the opportunity to share with you today something very, very important to me. Imagine going to work every day to fix some of the country's biggest challenges, knowing that you may never see the fruits of your labor during your career. Imagine heading towards the unknown while everyone runs away. Imagine trying your hardest to save the lives of people who look just like you and live in the same communities you do. But the problems are so big, long-standing, and pervasive that it feels like a band-aid on a bullet wound. Even worse, the systems that are supposed to help cause more harm than good. You might be thinking, wow, this person is probably a paramedic, a firefighter, or some other first responder. Actually, this person is a public health professional. I first learned that the world was different for people that looked like me in the 8th grade. That was back in 1991. The Rodney King beating and the murder of Latasha Harlins taught me very important and difficult lessons about the value of Black lives. Both incidents and the resulting civil unrest in 1992 taught me that the criminal justice system was not designed to benefit Black people. As I aged and entered the workforce, I came to understand that every system in society devalues Black lives in much the same way. I believe those experiences and a few others ultimately steered me towards a career in public health. My love for public health began over 20 years ago. While trying to finish my undergrad degree, I was a student worker at the local health department. I was also a young mother of a 3-year-old daughter who was born prematurely during my second semester of college. It was kind of ironic to be a statistic, a teen mother of a preterm baby, while trying to forge a path that would ensure my family's future economic stability. Although I was just learning about public health at the time, the impact of the systems that perpetuate poor health had already impacted my life in many ways. I bore witness to lack of access to healthy food in my South Los Angeles neighborhood, violence that hovered over my community and the trauma that surfaced afterwards, lack of jobs and economic growth that crippled the area. As a Black woman, my lived experience is important to public health practice. After all, when the experts are focused on numbers, data, graphs, charts, we see the faces and hear the stories of our friends, our neighbors, our families, ourselves. We are tied to the work in many ways. For example, unfortunately, Black people have some of the worst health outcomes because of the impact of structural and institutional racism. According to the Centers for Disease Control, although the death rates for African Americans has declined overall, we are still more likely to die at early ages from all causes. Secondly, we have personal connections to public health issues that have a direct impact on us and our families, such as infant and maternal mortality and violence. My identity also greatly informed my 15-year teaching career. I taught public health at several colleges and universities in the greater Los Angeles area, and I did what I could to make sure they understood. For example, I taught students about the Crown Act and how hair discrimination can affect how Black people navigate education and employment, two very important social determinants of health. I also taught them about environmental racism and how Black people bear a disproportionate burden of environmental injustice. It's my belief that Black women in public health have a double consciousness. I liken it to holding both the benefit and the burden of the work at the same time. I have the benefit of my education and work experience to be able to understand the root causes of some of the most pervasive public health issues of our time. But I also hold the burden of understanding the impact of institutional racism on the health of the Black community in a deeply personal and intimate way. It may surprise you to know that public health employees of color leave or wish to leave their jobs at rates higher than their white counterparts. Something happens where their desire to improve their communities and the health status of residents wanes and is exchanged with frustration and defeat. It's ironic because public health is a social justice institution. One of the foundational premises of public health is that everyone should have access to the resources and opportunities that will afford them a healthy life. The harsh reality is that there are centuries-old inequities along racial lines that keep entire communities from ever attaining a healthy life. Black, Indigenous, and other people of color have suffered greatly from structural and institutional inequities that affect social and economic opportunity, which heightens the stress response, weakens the immune system, and shortens lifespan. Sadly, although the mission and vision of public health as an institution is clear, the psychological safety of BIPOC employees suffers. In short, public health needs people that look like me, but many are leaving the field because they realize true change is elusive. Why is this happening? Research tells us that BIPOC public health employees are important. For one, we provide effective health care because we understand what it feels like to be treated poorly in the healthcare system. Secondly, we improve access to care because we know that access to healthcare can be the difference between life or death. And we eliminate health disparities because we know that no one is coming to save us, and we feel a responsibility and obligation to help make a difference. However, the current public health workforce is predominantly white and nearing retirement age. At a critical moment in the history of public health, the institution is struggling with a diversity problem that will render it unable to address the unique needs of a growing and diverse population. At a time when the public craves authenticity and accessibility, Black women in public health are the best equipped to do the work, but are becoming disenchanted with the work and choosing other opportunities. I can trace my family history all the way back to 1856. My great-great-grandfather was born enslaved in Tennessee. After emancipation, he moved his wife and 10 children to Tulsa, Oklahoma. His youngest daughter, my great-grandmother, was a makeup artist and beautician and came to Los Angeles with my grandmother in the 1930s, where she opened a beauty salon. She married a real estate developer, businessman, and community advocate. My grandmother came of age and married a young man who worked as a mechanic at the Shell gas station that my great-grandparents owned. After serving in World War II, he returned home and became one of the growing numbers of Black firefighters and integrated the fire station at Los Angeles International Airport. His oldest daughter, my aunt, was a disability rights advocate, commissioner, and small business owner. My family is part of Black history and the source of my devotion to community and passion for public health and public service. For me, public health work is more than a job, it is a calling. So how do we fix this problem? How do we fix this diversity problem in public health? Now, recently, public health has gained a lot of visibility because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been a marked increase in enrollment in public health programs in colleges and universities across the country. People want to jump in and help create a world where everyone has the resources and opportunities to live their best lives. However, more needs to be done to recruit future Black public health scholars, specifically Black women. Ensure that the lived experience and public health expertise of Black employees is recognized and valued, and that the workplace is a safe space for us all to do the work to advance the discipline and eliminate health disparities. Our communities deserve better. To find out more about me and my work, follow me at www.nicoledvick.com. Thank you.
There are so many people who are still dreaming of the day that they can say what they want and won't have to consider surrendering their beliefs or values to anyone for any reason. During this Black History Month, it is my pleasure and my honor to take a moment to recognize those just like you and just like me who found the courage, though we may have struggled at times, we spoke up. These are the people who are our tribe. These are the people that it's easy for us to relate to. We speak the same language all on one accord, marching to the beat of the same drum regarding some issue, some topic, some goal, or some belief. Unfortunately, we weren't able to spend our entire lives in their presence, which means that now we have to have the courage to speak up, even if we're unsure if people around us will agree with what it is that we have to say. Some may not, and that's fine. It's our differences that make the world a much better and more interesting place in which to live. If you have something that you believe in and you stand for, and you fear that when you speak up, no reaction or an overreaction from your audience, in no uncertain terms, letting you know that they don't agree with your viewpoints, and if this occurs often enough, you might even be fearful of speaking up and sharing your story. This is common. And this is the reason why many people are reluctant and sit on the sidelines remaining silent rather than getting in the game and playing by speaking up. If this is you, I want you to think about the words of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end to the day we become silent about what matters. Dr. King was a minister, activist, and one of the most prominent leaders in the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. He sought equality and human rights for African Americans, the economically disadvantaged, and all victims of injustice through nonviolent and peaceful protests. Dr. King appealed to society with a message of spirituality rooted in the Bible, a doctrine that all Americans could relate to. His leadership served to unify a nation at a time when unification was desperately needed, but not necessarily welcomed or wanted. Dr. King was a realist. He preached about the promised land and how I may not get there with you, prophesying that his beliefs may lead to his death, which indeed they did. But within his realism was a profound faith in law, civility, and spirituality. Dr. King had the right message at the right time. His nonviolent and peaceful protests and values showed through his actions, and his messages of peace and unity still resonate today, making him an important part of Black history. On August 28, 1963, just a short 60 years ago, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Dr. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Because he believed in the power of his cause, his life embodied that story, that message. Everyone knew he was living that before and after that speech. If you struggle to speak up, I want you to remember Dr. King had a dream. His sensible and melodic quotes about I have a dream are legendary. Through his speaking, he showed us the power of our own voices. As speakers, as humans, it's natural to expect the worst to happen. We have a big speech coming up, and we can only think about all the bad things that could happen if we mess up, if we say the wrong words, if we forget what we want to say, or even forget a point that we want to make. Or you finally built up the courage to deliver your first speech, and all of the negative self-talk, you psych yourself out with the mental mind games. And what happens most of the time? The outcome is rarely as bad as we make it out to be. We are usually more successful in our efforts than even we expected. If you have a story to tell, a message to share, get out there and share it with the world. Someone is waiting on you to be the solution to their problem, the cure for their pain, the light in their darkness. Boldly and confidently share your story. There may be people who don't agree with you. Guess what? It's okay. But there may be people who want to hear more of what it is you have to say. Be true to yourself, to who you are, what you believe in, and what you stand for, and do it with confidence. Don't allow negative anticipation of future outcomes that haven't even happened keep you from speaking up. When we accept and embrace this ideology, we remain silent, and that leads us to a space where we never know what it means to live out our full life's purpose. Because we'll never know what the needs of another, our words, could have meant. To gain the trust and respect from your audience, your cause, your business, or your brand, give them your story and your voice. Let your story be heard. No longer stand by still dreaming. Make today the day you move forward, knowing that because of our Black history figures, others have paved the way for you and I to have the courage and confidence to say what we want and needs to be said. If you struggle to speak up, remember, Dr. King had a dream. My name is Tiffany Miss Always Positive Hall, and I founded the business Positive, a play on the word positive in my name, Tiffany. I'm a speaking coach, a soon-to-be first-time author of the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, Change Your Beliefs to Live a Life of Abundance, which will be released in April. I coach women speakers who have a story to tell, but need the guidance and support of a coach to move beyond their own limiting beliefs, doubts, shame, and fear, because life showed up and does what life does. In 2009, when I began speaking, I thought I had healed, I had overcome an incident in which I almost lost my life, but I hadn't. You see, in June 2005, I was stabbed 7 times as a result of domestic violence, and I nearly lost my life. It was only after years of doing the necessarily healing work that I was ready and finally found myself in a healed space. It was the lessons that I learned and the experience that I gained that gave me the ability to confidently share my story on any stage without shame. In turn, this has made me a coach who can now share and pour into other women who choose to transform the world with their words. Because you took the time to watch and listen, I want to thank you by offering you the opportunity to join my Speak, Serve, Lead webinar. In this webinar, we'll discuss creating a clear and concise message that speaks to serve and connect with your ideal audience and leads to increased visibility, credibility, and profitability. I'm going to share with you the story of one of my speaking clients who wanted to expand her business but had never spoken on stage before. After delivering her first speech, secured several clients from that stage. If you want to take part in this webinar, you can email in the subject line, put MLK-BSN to info@tiffanylhall.com. Finally, I want to thank Mr. Brian Olds and the Black Speakers Network community for this opportunity to share this Black History Month. This is an important time to remind us as speakers that we have stories to share, and if we're still dreaming about it, when will be the right time to share your story with the world? If you struggle to speak up, remember, Dr. King had a dream.
Welcome. Listen, my name is Dante Williams. I'm the president and founder of Mental Health on Purpose. We really pride ourselves on being a part of the conversation as it relates to mental health. Today, we're going to have an open and honest conversation about mental health within the Black community. My hope is that we'll talk about some of the myths and maybe answer a few questions. I want to introduce you to a few voices. from the mental health community, as well as a little bit about our process. Do you have a few minutes? If so, yeah.
Hi, so for me, I believe it's important to create those safe spaces within the Black community for the invisible people within the Black community, such as the disabled, such as the queer, such as the ones that present a little bit of unorthodox, because we don't have stories being told. We're having monolithic stories being told within our community, and I think it's important to expand our minds and provide safe spaces and create room for those stories to be told and heard, seen, and validated.
So, how do we create a place where all stories are really and truly valued? This is a principle within the counseling process that we take very sincere. One thing I oftentimes will get asked, well, what happens when I bump into you in public? Well, my first response is simply this: I do not know you. No, but on a serious note, right? The goal is to keep the conversation short because we want to create a place to where someone may know I'm a counselor, right? And you have the space to decide on what that conversation looks like. As we think about safe place within, our community, counseling again does not come to mind for a lot of us. Understanding the process is going to be so important. In those beginning phases, it can feel very uncomfortable in that simply, the counselor is going to get up in your business. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. And honestly, there is a lot of paperwork that has to be completed. But we want to tell the full story, right? The full story of your experience. So we want to tell the full story, right? The full story of your experience as you experienced it. When you think about the Black community, I oftentimes think about those safe places that we have, the dinner table. And often for me, really the church being a. So as we think about the many different leaders within our community, obviously the Black church, right? The pastors, the priests come to mind for us. And really, through a history of safety, we've learned to trust, right? We've learned how to communicate effectively with the guy on the corner who always has a word of wisdom, or with our barber who cuts our hair, or our beautician, right? We've really learned to trust that process. But how do we bridge the gap, right, between the mental health community and the Black community? Well, representation matters. Yeah. Don't take my word for it.
Hey, so the question is, why a Black therapist? For me, I don't want to have to explain my Blackness to anyone. I want someone who can empathize and understand without me having to give them a lecture on cultural competency. There's such a stigma in the Black community already about seeking therapy. We grew up telling everyone, stop crying, or suck that up, you gotta be strong. So someone who looks like me can understand the culture without me having to be a teacher.
Hey, as I think about it, we all have a personal story. I reflect on my father. He was a ruling elder and is a ruling elder within the New Glorious Church of God in Christ. In addition to that, he would oftentimes tell us about stories during his time in the military. I remember in particular this one story where he shared with us being out there on the midst of the battlefield and the enemy having surrounded them. And in this moment, he remembers his fellow soldiers saying, "Pray, preacher, pray." And so he did, and he talks about how the ground began to shake. And all of himself and his soldiers had fell into this hole. And in that moment, the Lord had shared with him to be quiet. And he remembers simply the enemy marching around them. You see, we grew up with stories like this in our household, stories that shaped who we are today and who we will become. In the process of counseling, the goal is to understand what did I tell myself from childhood? What's true for me? Maybe it wasn't the basketball court, but what we did was we found a place of refuge in those places that were safe for us. The playground, the church, the barbershop. So many local community staples, the restaurants. These were all places where we found a sense of safety at times. But the reality is that sometimes those places weren't very safe, and the people that were there to protect us truly didn't. I'm sorry for them. But how do we begin to heal? When do we begin to rewrite our story? When do we get to live in the truth that our experience was horrible? But we are not just the totality of that experience, but we're so much more. I think about the example I often like to give in counseling. The reality is that as we go through life, we have different trauma experiences that occur to us. And as they occur, it's almost as if there's this brick being laid. And it's almost as if we're laying a brick. And before we know it, the failed marriage, the car accident, the experience of abuse, we have this large wall before us for us to where it literally blocks out the sun. And so it makes sense that it's lonely. I want to challenge you to do something different this year as it relates to your mental health. Some people are really good. They may run at that wall and knock it down. But the reality is a lot of us attempt to run at it, but man, it hurts. Yeah. So we try and we fail. We try and we try again. But just as that wall was built, I want to encourage us to take it down brick by brick. Maybe this year we focus on meditation. Maybe we focus on mindfulness and being out in nature this year. Maybe we get that therapist or that coach that is going to help us on to the next level of our journey. Whatever it is that you do, I just simply want to encourage you to do it with intentionality. Listen, each and every voice within our community is important. And I thank you for this time and hope that you do mental health on purpose.
Habari Gani, one and all, I am Shonda Branch, the author and cultural creative of Your Guide to a Modern Kwanzaa Celebration. Now, that's a book that I wrote back in 2020 in the midst of the chaos and confusion and madness that year was, because I wanted to give my family something to celebrate. I wanted to give my family some joy. I wanted to root and ground them in some happiness. But what I discovered in the midst of all of the research, the planning, and the writing was that Kwanzaa had much, much more to offer. And so today, I have the honor and privilege of offering you some of my discoveries in a new context. Kwanzaa is not just a 7-day festival. I submit to you that Kwanzaa can be a 365-day-a-year lifestyle. You can live a lit lifestyle. Let's get into it. What is Kwanzaa? So first of all, Kwanzaa is a cultural holiday. It was founded in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga. It's a celebration of Black culture, Black history, Black family, and Black community, and it harkens back to the first fruits festivals of Africa. It's celebrated throughout the diaspora, which simply means everywhere you find Black people or the descendants of African people, you will find a Kwanzaa celebration. Now, the Nguzo Saba, say that with me, Nguzo Saba. are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. They are the founding and grounding ideas that make up this holiday. You may not have heard of them before, so I'm going to go through each of them at a very surface level. First is umoja, unity. The second is kujichagulia, self-determination. Next is ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujama, cooperative economics. Nia, purpose. Kaumba, creativity. And imani, faith. These 7 principles are the guiding ideas. They are not new ideas. They are ancient African principles and ways of living. Now, each of the 7 nights of Kwanzaa, beginning the day after Christmas and going all the way through New Year's, we will light what you see here, the kinara. Now, the candle holder has space for 3 red candles, 3 green candles, and 1 black candle. Those colors are indeed significant. They are symbolic. The red is for the blood and the struggle of the people. The green is for the land and the richness thereof. And the black candle in the center represents the people themselves. Now, the Nguzu Saba do not travel alone. Those principles are the guiding factors, but they are supported by 7 pillars or ways of convening. Now, those 7 pillars are ingathering, coming together to fellowship, reverence, having a respect for the Creator and all that He has created, commemoration, honoring those who have come before us, recommitment, defining and understanding what strategies have worked for us in the past, and returning to those same strategies, values, and ideals. Celebration, because who doesn't like a party? Education, so that we continually expand our minds. And sustainability, ensuring that what we have now, our children will have in the future, and that they will have it in abundance. Now, how exactly does this apply to your family? How can you apply those principles and pillars in a way that will enrich the life that your family is leading? Well, here I have some questions that are aligned specifically with the principles of Kwanzaa. Let's take, for example, Ujima. I might be riding along in the car with my family on a Sunday and very casually ask everyone, are we sharing the household tasks and chores fairly? This opens up a conversation. Now it's my job to listen actively, to pay attention to what's being said, and to create space for everyone in the family to be heard, beginning with the elders, going all the way down to the children, listening and responding. Once I've heard everyone, we can spend the remainder of the week putting a plan in place and executing that plan to make sure that we are indeed sharing household chores and responsibilities fairly. That's one way that you can light it up. Now, you may say, maybe that works for a family, but I don't think my business is the right place for this. I would beg to differ. At every corner of your business dealings, you are going to find a chance to get lit. Let's take Kujichagulia for an example this time. Self-determination. If you own or operate that business, you should probably ask yourself, do my employees have opportunities to chart their own growth within this business? Are they in charge of their own destiny? Am I giving them the training and the support, the mentorship that they may need to move forward? Am I helping them by offering them opportunities to work on projects that maybe stretch them in a new way? How are they able to self-determine? And here's probably the hardest one. Are you ready to help them grow beyond your business if that's what's right for them and you? That's one opportunity for you to get lit. All right. Maybe you are part of a community organization or a nonprofit organization, and you're still not totally convinced that these principles are going to work across the board. Well, I sit on lots of boards, lots of commissions, and lots of committees. And something that we are always conscious of is our mission or our purpose. So let's take a look at NIA. What happens when we achieve our purpose as an organization? And let's face it, if you are a successful organization, you will eventually solve the problem that you set out to solve, whether that be the health and well-being of women and children, or ending childhood hunger, or homelessness. You're eventually going to get there. And when you do, what comes next? Do you have a plan in place that allows you to be responsive to the new needs that might arise in your community? It's time to spark a flame and really understand how you have opportunities to show up in new and different ways. Now, you can stay lit all year long. You can thoughtfully evaluate your home, your business, or your organization. And here's the sticky part, then evaluate yourself. Set and track some specific goals. Really understand what it is you want to aim for and how you're going to get there. Invite an ally or participate as one. Kwanzaa is not just for Black folks. Everyone can come and be part of this celebration. Now, we encourage you to do that responsibly and respectfully, but we want you to be here. We want to celebrate with everyone. Gather and check in with your progress. Accountability works wonders, and it saves you from having to do all of the rethinking and strategizing and progress checking when Kwanzaa rolls around. We want to be able to sit back and enjoy and celebrate throughout those 7 days. So tracking your progress along the way with others who are in support of you and your goals is going to be incredibly helpful. Finally, give the gift of yourself to your community. One of the things that we do for Kwanzaa is exchange zawadi, or gifts. Now, the concept is that you should exchange gifts that are handmade or come from a Black artisan, or are educational in nature, cultural in nature, or experiential in nature. So not just running to the store and picking up a thing and then throwing it in a box and saying, hey, happy Kwanzaa, but really digging down and making sure that that gift expresses a unique value. You, my friend, have unique value. You, my friend, are a value add to your community. We need you to join together with us. Now, here are your next steps. This is important. I want you to scan this code. When you do, it's going to take you to that bit.ly code, Kwanzaa Book 365. I've got 2 absolutely free, very, very special treats for you there. The first is a coloring book that I designed to help you move through the Kwanzaa principles in a really fun and exciting way. You've got some really great images that go along with the words, the definitions that can be used with children, that can be used with seniors, that can be used in your workplace. They can be used for quiet meditation time and journaling. They've got so many great uses. I really want you to enjoy those. Then I've also got the Kwanzaa 365 ebook. I've put together some of the handouts that you saw earlier in this presentation with a few other treats and goodies so that you really get a handle on how you can live this lit lifestyle. I want you, thirdly, to follow up with me directly. Show me and tell me how you are using these materials. And more importantly, if you want me to connect with you so that we can explore these further, I would love to do that. Scan that code, get the free gifts. All right, friends, that's my time. And I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to stay with you for just a few moments and really discuss how Kwanzaa has benefited me in my life and how I really feel that living a lit lifestyle 365 can benefit you in yours. Take care.
One of the greatest ways to honor our ancestors is to simply remember them, to embed their legacy in the forefronts of our minds, to engrave their names on our hearts while feeding our children the alkalinity of their wisdom, to learn from their mistakes while continuing to lay the bricks on the roads they have paved for us.
Love and light, or as we say in the Yoruba tradition, Alafia. I am Ayansa J. Muse. I am an intuitive light worker, a spiritual counselor, a visual, literary, and performing artist, and a priestess of Oya in the Ifa Orisha tradition. And I've come today to speak to you about the importance of ancestor veneration. Ancestor veneration is simply the practice of honoring the lives, the legacies, and the wisdom of anyone and everyone that has walked the path before you. Now, keep in mind that ancestor veneration is not ancestor worship. as mainstream society has taught that the tradition of ancestor veneration is demonic, scary, spooky, against God. Not so. It's simply the practice of honoring the legacy and the wisdom and the lessons learned from the lives of those that have gone on before you. And taking it back to its more traditional form can be very beneficial to our progress as a people. And we do it often. We really do. We do it in ways that we don't even realize we're doing it. When we celebrate Martin Luther King Day, we are venerating the ancestral spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King. When we salute Malcolm X's birthday, when we listen to, remember the legacies of our best actors and musicians and inventors, all of this is a collective wisdom that we can use and pass on to our children. And our tradition, we teach that our ancestors are the root. We are the stem. Our children are the leaves, sprouts, and fruits for tomorrow. And if you uproot the stem, the plant becomes a tumbleweed. So ancestor veneration is very important in keeping us grounded in the rich legacy of our past so that we can be well focused in our present and clear on the road that we are paving for tomorrow. In more traditional forms of ancestor veneration, we pour a thing called libations, in which you take water and pour it to the earth. Why? Because we lay the bones of our dearly departed in the earth, and watering that earth is a way of keeping their wisdom and their consciousness well alive. The most common form of libations is when we watch a lot of hip-hop videos or movies and we see people pour out liquor for the homies. That's really an ancient tradition called libation, in which water is the element of refresh, and we refresh the wisdom of our ancestors. Now, this is what makes ancestor veneration and not ancestor worship, because anyone who walked this earth in human flesh has made mistakes, has made misturns, has made mistakes as well as triumphs. And when that person becomes an ancestor, we can learn that wisdom either way it goes. Ancestral spirits teach us what to do, and they also teach us what not to do. And we give thanks for both sides so that you can be more clear on what type of person you want to be and how your thread weaves in the overall tapestry of the Black experience. Another way that we unknowingly already venerate our ancestors is when we wear t-shirts that bear the faces of our family members, when we constantly talk about how our grandmothers and our uncles and our grandfathers and family members lived, and we pass these things down to our children, because our loved ones don't die when their spirits leave their bodies. Our loved ones die when they are forgotten. Ancestor veneration is a way of ensuring that the legacy, the lives, and the love of our ancestors are never, ever forgotten. When we honor our ancestors, it's important to also remember the ancestors that you know not by name. What am I talking about? In the days of the transatlantic slave trade, our names were taken, our families were scrambled, sold away. We all know the story. And those are the ancestors that paid the heaviest price for us to be here today. The ones that are buried in unmarked graves because slaves didn't have names beyond kind of like pet names per se. And when you honor the ancestors you know not by name, you give thanks to those who paid the ultimate price. And in practicing ancestor veneration, you will find yourself a lot more grounded in who you are. Because your ancestors, especially the ones in your bloodline, are survived by you. This is the reason why obituaries read, so-and-so is survived by, and it lists all the relatives still living. And that's why it is important for you to always venerate your ancestors, whether in traditional form or any way that is true to your spirit, because it keeps you grounded in the root of where you come from. And when you stay grounded in the root of where you come from, you can stay clearer on where you're going. We say things like, oh, so-and-so must be turning in their grave. That's ancestor veneration. Oh, I can feel my grandmother watching down over me. That's ancestor veneration. You know, I got a spiritual visit from this person. I know they're gone in the flesh, but I can feel them all around me. That's ancestor veneration. And it isn't a scary and demonic thing. And our people were taught that venerating our ancestors was unholy and demonic by people who wished to erase our identities in order to replace it with theirs. And their mental pictures of us were that of slaves, and that's not so. We were never slaves. We were enslaved doctors, inventors, musicians, artists, storytellers, creators. And it's all in a collective wisdom just waiting on you to venerate. Because once you do, that ancestral wisdom will return to you. Because all of us are reincarnated DNA of our ancestors. So remembering ancestors and venerating ancestors is really honoring and remembering us. Past, present, and future. And that's how you keep Black history going year-round. Thanks for giving me a moment of your time to speak with you about this. I can be reached at the Linktree at Poetically Mused. I got a lot of fruits on that tree to choose from. And I also have a 24/7 radio station that you can beam up to and listen to all the ancestral music that created the genius of Black sound. And that radio station is called 222.9 The Mothership. It's an internet radio station that I hope you tune into to stay aligned with our ancestral planetary groove, as well as receive many other spiritual teachings besides this one. Have a wonderful, blessed day, and happy Black History Month. And take this Black History Month and make it Black History 24/7. Or double, or goodbye for now.